So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome. I'm Reverend Jerry Troyer from the affiliated New Thought Network, and I would like to welcome you to our July Speaker Series conversation with Paula Langguth Ryan. We are so glad that you are with us. Our beloved Reverend Dr. Carol Lawson is with us as well, and she will take over for me in just a moment or two, but I would like to remind you, just give a shameless advertisement. Our 2019 conference and retreat is October 1st through the 4th at Unity Village outside of Kansas City. We have amazing speakers, including John Harold Moore, Michael Gott, Mitch Horowitz, and
Martha Creek.
No. Martha Creek. And I'm missing somebody. It'll come back to me. Anyway, an amazing time. If you've not been to Unity Village, it is an extraordinary experience. Space is still available for the conference. Go to www.newthought.org for more information and to register, and we would love to see you there.
And we have a deadline, Jerry, that I think we should mention. That September 1st.
Thank you so much. Deadline is September 1st. Sooner if we run out of space at the conference, because the size of the conference room is limited. So you'll really want to do this as soon as we hang up today. But it's just really going to be a wonderful time away, and really invite you to be with us. And again, see the website, newthought.org, for more information and the registration form and all of that. So with that in mind, if you will join me in the light for just a moment, I will pray us into this wonderful experience. Nice deep breath if you would like, releasing thoughts of what happened earlier today, thoughts of later today or tomorrow, so we can just be fully present in this moment. And as we do, we recognize there's only one power, presence, mind, life, and intelligence, and that is God. Spirit, the universe, the infinite, the divine, whatever we choose to call it. And we come together in gratitude today for this day, for the opportunity to be together, for this most amazing teaching that we call New Thought, religious science, science of mind, unity, divine science, whatever you choose. We recognize our oneness with the God presence, with one another, and with all of life. And so we allow ourselves to just go apart for a while, for the next hour or so, to be open at the top, as Ernest Holmes said, to learn new things, to laugh, to be aware of the truth of our being. So I wrap our time together in gratitude, love, and light, and together we say, and so it is. Yes. So it is my pleasure to introduce Reverend Dr. Carol Lawson. She is the secretary for the affiliated New Thought Network. She's the founding minister for the Center for Conscious Living in Morristown, New Jersey. She is a delight and a treasure and one of the lights of my life. Reverend Dr. Carol, welcome.
Well, that's pretty good. I'll talk to you later, Jerry.
Okay.
I am actually quite thrilled to be introducing and getting to know at a deeper level this Paula, who has said she's an irreverent reverend, but the bios, picking bits and pieces, if she gave me a sentence or two, talks about Paula Langguth Ryan as an internationally renowned conflict resolution and communications consultant, which I think is maybe key for some of the things we talk about today. She said she believes everything we write or speak leaves behind a fingerprint of our own insecurities and concerns. These fears leak out through our communications, sabotage our efforts to get what we desire. And so she's worked with spiritual centers, with businesses. It spans 30 years, it says, growing out of her personal desire to give neither littleness nor accept it. Her Ryan's Rules of Order hangs on walls of businesses and spiritual organizations worldwide. She is an independent, I think, Unity minister. She's the author of several books, Giving Thanks, The Art of Tithing, which has a foreword by Catherine Ponder, which speaks to me of her authority in the whole prosperity field. And another book that I just ran across that I don't see my notes on, but I bet you can tell me something about coming back from bankruptcy.
Bounce back from bankruptcy.
Bounce back from bankruptcy. So that was pretty amazing as well. And she is also the CEO and CFO and major domo of New Thought Classics. And this really beautiful company that's dedicated to spreading these ideas of New Thought. And also since 2006, Paula's nonprofit, The Village Gathering, has supported Kenyan pastors and community leaders engaged in sustainable solutions based on New Thought principles. And I will bring up at some point that, because I've started reading her Facebook page and blogs and things about the work in Kenya. And we sponsor a orphanage in Haiti, and the same. It's like I was so intrigued with what you're doing, so I want to be sure we talk about that too. And of course, the amateur juggler and the semi-professional harmonica player and the Irish wolfhounds and the sign about Martha Creek's been here. So as we pick all of those, you can see we could talk for weeks, but today it's going to be about effortlessly dissolving conflict in any area of your life. So stay tuned, take notes, hear the recording. I wrote on my Facebook page, it's probably not for us, but it'll be for those other people, something that we know to tell them. Welcome,
I love
Paula.
it. Hi. Thank you guys for having me here. I appreciate it. It's interesting. I met with a young man, came into my office yesterday. I have some companies that their employees, if there's a conflict, they have to come see Paula. And so he sat in what we call the hot seat, and he shared that, he didn't want to work with this person he was working with anymore because this person had said something to him, and he took it very personally. And I knew about the situation, so I'd also spoken to the other employee and heard what he had said. But it got me thinking about, for today, like how we get stuck in this place of, someone has an intent to communicate something to us, and they say something, and then we hear something, and then we have an intent of how we're going to receive that, what we think that means about us. And so the fascinating thing in this situation was, you're never upset for the reason you think you are, right? That's what
Right.
Circles teaches us. That's what all our principles teach us. And so this young man, I talked to him about, well, where else in this life, in your life, have you experienced this sort of interaction with someone? And immediately his father, and so we were able to talk through, if you leave this position, you're going to recreate this again somewhere else, because clearly this is an ongoing pattern. You've got 2 more weeks left before you're leaving to go back to school anyways. What would you think about doing an experiment and just staying with the job in this position where they have to work together daily? So it's not like he can stay away from the person. It's a close contact labor job. And he said he'd be willing, because he said he wants to break that pattern that says, I'm not good enough, that he thinks he got from his dad. And so I was so proud of him for recognizing, okay, here's a chance where I can transform this. And that's what the dissolving conflicts is all about. It's recognizing, instantly, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't mean anything about me. When something tweaks us, when we feel like we're in conflict with something, what's usually happening is someone has said something that mirrors what we think or say about ourselves. And the minute we can recognize that, we can go, oh, say again?
Say that one more time while I make a note of that.
You bet. So what we do
What
is,
possible, I might need to hear it again.
let's hope I can remember what I said. that when there's someone we're in conflict with, that we think we're in conflict with, what's happening is the thing they think they're saying about us is actually what we say or believe about ourselves. You know, it's just a mirror, a reflection, a projection. And so people treat us the way we treat ourselves. And I'm always fascinated when people say, you know, I'm being disrespected in this situation. You know, that's one of my favorites when people say that, because I'm like, okay, so let's make a short list of where you disrespect yourself. And what do they say? That's not going to be a short list. Right? Because the truth is, you know, oh, people abandon me all the time. Great. Let's take a look at where you've abandoned yourself. You know?
And that's why they call it the hot seat. When
the hot seat, yes. There's always a box of Kleenex. I've made Marines cry in my chair. You know?
I have no trouble believing that.
So once you get in this space of, okay, so this is a projection. I'm going to be grateful for the fact that whatever's being tweaked in me is somebody pointing out an unhealed place in me. So instead of immediately projecting, because the only time we get upset is because I think it means something about me. I'm projecting it into the future based on all my past experiences, instead of being fully present to, okay, somebody said something. You know, what my new little models for like a little video thing I want to do to be thing one and thing two. Because otherwise we get all these personalities involved, right? And so if we just go, okay, so something, thing one, said something to thing two. And so we've got our little blue-haired thing ones and thing twos here. And the truth is, okay, so something happened. Something was said. I made it mean this. I interpreted it as this. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what was said. That doesn't mean that's what was meant. All that meaning is something I'm pulling in from how I feel about me or from a past experience. So I taught this young man yesterday this incredibly simple way to bring yourself into the present. You know, where are you now? I'm here, right?
So before you say that, Paula, let me just interrupt because everybody else is muted, and I just want to tell them that there is a chat down at the bottom. If you want to ask a question, or this is meaningful or hitting something with you and you'd like to say something, please put it in the chat, and then we'll get to those later.
Sweet. And can I see the chat, or is that just something you can see?
No, you should be able to see it. I think
should be able to see it. Yes.
Hit down at the bottom, if you hit chat.
Check it out. Sweet. Okay, now you can anonymously ask me questions. No, just kidding.
No,
not so anonymous.
No, we missed that.
But I can do this. So someone's asking for a friend. Exactly. That always works. But basically what I did was I taught him to recognize, you know, if you're here and now, you're in the present. But in the moment when your ego and your limbic brain is going, I'm being attacked, if you just simply pat yourself over the heart with a nice slow rhythm, everybody do it, let's feel it, okay? And so somebody just said something, you're completely freaking out, so you take a deep breath and you tap yourself once and you go here, and tap yourself again, now. Nice, soft inner voice, you can say it out loud if you need to, just here, now. And it brings you immediately, you know, and then your ego is going to, rah, again, just here. You know, it's such a simple thing, but it's the tactile thing. If you've ever been around a child who is anxious, you know, moving around, just touching their body, a little pressure is all that's needed to calm them down. You know, and this, we're talking about our inner child, right? Who's completely freaking out about something. You know, I met with another young man earlier this week who's in a transitional housing facility, and you know, everything is something horrible happened to me. Something horrible happened to me. You know, and the opposite of that is the other side where we go, I made all of this happen. It's all my fault. You know, and so again.
Yeah, you don't get far.
Yeah, and conflicts, they're like little threads of, ooh, and that means there's a conflict here, and that means there's a conflict here, and that means there's a conflict here that's attached to somebody did something to me, or attached to it's my fault. You know, any Catholics, my fault, my most grievous fault, mea culpa, mea culpa.
Yes, I remember that. Actually, went to Catholic college.
There you go. And so, you know, it's not my fault and no one did anything to me. But I am the person who has absolute 100% control over how this is going to affect me. Which is, do we, you know, how many control freaks do we have, right?
A little bit here.
How many of us actually exercise the only control we have over anything? No?
Sometimes.
Well, let me do this. But it's recognizing, so, okay, so if I have control over this, then I'm the person who can change this. And the problem is that most of our skills for dissolving the conflict are actually conflict avoidance. You know, we go all Scarlett O'Hare, you know, I'll think about that tomorrow. Or my favorite used to be, I would visualize putting the conflict, the issue, because, you know, I have to be very positive and loving, and that's who I am because I'm a middle child. And, you know, everybody likes me better if I'm nice. And this is, you know, in my early 20s. And so I literally in my brain put the issue and the situation into a shoebox, tape it shut, and put it in a dark closet. So of course, event after event after event, my closet got filled up. And I had a wonderful spiritual counselor, Nellie Louth, who still practices and sees clients, who said to me, are you willing to take a risk here? And so we were sitting on a beach, and she said, I want you to visualize that all of those boxes, that the entire closet has been buried in the sand. You know, and it was buried like this. So the door, and someone discovered it, and the door got open. Now it's my choice whether I want to dig into the sand and pull one of those out and heal it. And so we're always at choice. If there's a conflict happening right now, and you can figure out, oh, that's this pattern. You know, it's always good to go with the big ones, but if you want to, you know, go with the tiny one. But if there's this conflict going on right now in my world, am I willing to be present to transforming it? And it is 100% okay if the answer is, no, I'm not willing. You know, I like being in conflict. I like the drama. I like being upset. I like not having any peace in my life. I like the adrenaline rush of worry. You know, awesome. Own it. You know, don't pretend that you're avoiding it. You know, don't, oh, I'm going to go hang with my friends and then I don't have to think about it. I'm going to play on social media and it won't bother me. You know, I'm going to be passive aggressive. You know, I'm going to be over controlling, you know, whatever I want to do to whitewash this conflict. Instead, am I willing to stay present to it? Am I willing to look at it and just say, okay, what does this really mean about me? And if we go back to that, somebody said something, right? So they said something and I gave it meaning because I thought it meant something about me because I think this about me. So instead, if what I heard the person say was actually something like, Paula, you are a 500-pound purple gorilla. That doesn't make any sense. But what if that's what they really said to you? Something that makes zero sense. You'd laugh because you can't give it any meaning.
There's no button.
Yeah.
There's no shoebox to undo about that.
He's loco en la cabeza. I don't know what he's talking about. You know, I'm not a 500-pound purple gorilla. So clearly he didn't really mean that because I know I'm not a 500-pound purple gorilla. Do you see where I'm going here? Yeah. If I know the truth of who I am, then what anybody else says about me or writes about me or anything else means nothing to me. That's their opinion, their thought, and my only thought would be, well, okay, so clearly something must be going on in their world today if they're saying these things, because clearly, you know, and of course it's the same thing. If someone's saying something like that, then that's their fear. They're afraid of whatever they just said about you. That's, you know, I'm rubber, I'm glue thing. You know, they're really just talking about themselves. I had an incident once that was really kind of amusing to me, but I did realize the other person was not amused. But I showed up somewhere and someone else thought that they were supposed to be the person there. And when I pointed out, no, this is me that's supposed to be here, they started swearing. And poking me in the face and, just getting really agitated and saying, all sorts of stuff about me. And I just turned very calmly and I said, you really don't like yourself very much, do you? And she thought I was going to say, you don't really like me very much, do you? And she went, she was like, no, I don't. And then she was like, what? This just made her madder. So, always be careful. And as my former producer, Jim Lefter, would say, please don't try these things at home without supervision.
Oh, that's great.
I once told a mom at a Walmart when a child was saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. And she was like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And I said, well, actually, he does want it. And it's okay for you to tell him that he's not going to get it today. And someone pointed out saying things like that in a North Carolina Walmart, which is a permit to carry state, might not always be your wisest option. So what I was hoping to do today, and I can keep talking forever, but if I am able to help anybody move through a conflict, that's one of my favorite things to do when I do live events, is to instantly dissolve someone's conflict. It's just a fun little thing I like to do. But one of the things we can do is talk about how, we usually get into a state of conflict because we're not centered, right? Because something's off with us. It happens if there's an unknown, if we're doing something new. So then there's that sense of, I don't have control over this. I don't have, all the information about this. So we're a little askew, right? So one of the things I wanted to point out is when someone says, okay, I've never experienced this before. This isn't familiar. To be able to look at, oh, okay, so in other situations like this that I've experienced in my life, so something known to me, what is this, what about this new thing is familiar? It's similar to, whereas this, something like this happened before that I know about. So let's take, my son is getting ready to go to middle school.
Oh,
so that's a big transition, right? And so they have this 3-day orientation thing. They teach them their schedules. They teach them how to get around and navigate at the school. So they run through their actual schedules, several times once a day, because it's a 3-day orientation. They learn how to use their combo lockers, all that sort of stuff. They do team building stuff. So it's very exciting. But he shared, I'm a little nervous because this is unknown to me. I've never been to middle school before. And I'm like, absolutely, dude. I said, but let me think here. So you've been to a school before though, right? And he was like, yeah. He's like, okay. And you've been to a school where you didn't know anyone, right? And he's like, yeah. It's like, okay. And you've had a school day that had a schedule, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, okay. So, and I said, and you've gone to a school where you've known no one and made fast friends. And he was like, yeah. And you could just see him getting more and more confident about, oh, this is okay. This is okay, right? These are the new things. So when we get into that space of, wow, okay, so this isn't going to be so bad because there are things that I already know. There's skills that I already know. And the same thing with, if you're trying to do something new and you're like, okay, I can't do this because I don't know this, and this. Awesome. Look, you already made some advanced progress here. You already know what you don't know. So the truth is what you want is, I want to know the answers to these things. So go for a 15-minute walk or sit still with spirit and say, okay, dude, have a real personal relationship, right? Hey, dude, so today's a busy day and there's things I want to move forward. So I need you to do some research and get back to me. I need to know these things. And you outline them specifically what it is you want to know. And of course, something's going to pop into your head. I had a client come by last week who's a film writer. And she said, I'm working forward on this and I'm trying to figure out, how do I do that? And at the end of August, she has to move. So she's got to pack. She's got to, find a new place to live. And she was like, I'm trying not to obsess on the moving so that I can stay focused on finishing this script in time for the festival schedule. And I was like, sweet. I said, so here's what you do. Because she's like, sometimes I get stuck. I said, so do this exercise, get quiet, say, I need some assistance with this. This is your job today. And then when something comes up like, hey, go take your car to the car wash. Our natural inclination is go, excuse me, car wash later. You give me the answer to this problem. This is your job. Stay focused. When what's really happening is Spirit is saying, go to the car wash because the answer's there. So you go to the car wash and, it's one of those ones where your car goes through it and you stand outside in a little window area. So you're watching and some other lady's there and gets to talking and she sees your cool little notebook with the little film camera on it. And she says, oh, what do you do? What's in your book? And I'm writing a new film script. And, oh my gosh, my Uncle Bob is, all into film stuff. And she goes, oh, would you think he'd happen to know about this, that, or the other? Well, I don't know. Let me give him a call. So she calls Uncle Bob and, all of a sudden she says, oh, Uncle Bob wants to talk to you. And you pick up the phone from the person and the other voice says, hi, this is Robert Redford. How can I help you? You don't know what's going to unfold.
Wow.
So it's always recognizing there's always the next step, and all you have to do is get quiet and say, okay, what do I know about this? I know something about this, but I also know enough to shut up and listen. And I had my spiritual center in Cocoa Village, Florida. We had my friend Carmen, this round, soft Hispanic woman from Puerto Rico. She always wanted to play the role of the Holy Spirit. And so the Holy Spirit would be up on stage in different sketches, completely quiet. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, she'd yell at the top of her lungs and stare out at everybody and just go, shut up and listen. Because that's what the Holy Spirit's always saying is just, could you please just hush, And instead the Holy Spirit says, shut up and listen. You're like, stop, don't tell me to shut up.
Well, those are beautiful examples. Wonderful.
We create that conflict within ourselves all the time.
You've got a comment from Lizzy who says this is totally validating what I've been experiencing. Thank you. I want you to know that.
My problem, my pleasure. A problem is a pleasure. A pleasure is a problem.
And I did write, if somebody's on the phone and not able to see the chat, if you do want to work with a current conflict, and Paula, let us know or write it in the chat or
unmute yourself and yell at me.
Yeah, unmute yourself and yell. That's a good. Say, listen.
That's right. And then I see Martha wrote about what are the Ryan's rules of order.
Yes.
You can email me and I can send it to you. But as soon as the new directional pointing of my website, which we finished yesterday, but we didn't get the domain pointed properly until late last night, so it's not live yet. But unless someone sees it's live, let me know. It's paulalanguthryan.com, and we'll have a free download of Ryan's Rules of Order there for folks. But you can always email me at paularyan13@gmail.com, and I'll go ahead and just say, Ryan's Rules of Order, and I'll send you a copy. We have one specific for spiritual leaders and one specific for businesses too. So.
And it's paulalanguthryan.com for the poster.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you give us your email address again?
Yes, sir. paularyan13@gmail.com.
Cool. Thank you.
So what else should we talk about?
Well, we've gotten actually beautiful. I have a guest speaker coming this Sunday, a healer from India, so I can't quite figure out how to work it in. But the Sunday after, we're going to talk about here now. We do a lot of the heart breathing from, well, I'm not sure all of the sources.
That's right, yeah.
Heart math, probably.
Heart math's awesome. I love heart math.
But that just sounds so simple and beautiful and easy to begin to calm down.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some of the other things as we're dealing with conflict and those.
Right. Well, one of my favorite tools, I'm going to make one right here, right now. So you'll hear a little tearing. Here we go. So whenever you're having conversations with a group of people, people tend to get defensive. because if we haven't worked through our stuff. So when I do spiritual leadership training, I always have an individual session with everybody to work through their stuff so that they bring their authentic self to the table for like a leadership training kind of thing. It's always fun. But one of the things I encourage people to do, and I've done this with families, I've done it with businesses, with churches. I can't spell to save my life apparently today. Hold on.
Well, you're deeply intuitive and in your right brain right this minute.
That's right. Okay, so you make a little index card. And on one side, you write the word love. And on the other side, you write the word fear. And what you do is, when you're speaking, you always want to speak from a place of love if you can, but if you know you're coming from a place of fear, you're scared about something, you're upset, then you want to hold yours out so that everyone else sees fear. And everybody else around the table holds theirs up with love extended. So you know people are sending you love, that people recognize you're coming from a place of fear, and the only response to coming from a place of fear is to extend love. But what also you notice is when I'm extending love, what am I looking at? I'm looking at my own fear. So the fear I'm seeing out there is just my fear. So let me extend love to myself as well and heal this. And what happens to the other person's fear? It goes away. And so I'll never forget, there's a minister, a longtime minister in upstate New York, who we did this years ago with her and her board. And she wrote me one day and she said they had just had the conversation to renew her contract. And the board president, in the email announcing it, said, everybody bring your love fear cards.
Oh, that's it.
And she said it was the easiest, most loving, most authentic conversation, because if people were like, oh, I don't know if we should give her a raise, or that big of a raise, because, this is the income that we're having right now. My fear is, that we won't have enough to pay our bills if we do that, even no matter how much we love our minister. You see the difference?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Now it's like, no, you can't have a raise. Yeah, I'm unworthy of a raise. It's like, no, they have a fear about the financial stability of the church that we all love.
It's just wonderful. I'll see it. There's another. I could use it the same Sunday or another, or just go right to the next board.
That's right. Well, my whole thing is, techniques shouldn't be complicated. They should be as easy as your breath. It should be as easy as a visual reminder. Like you can't see it, but right here, I have a little sign that is jerry-rigged with binder clips with a little note that says, look here. So that I tend to look more at the camera and not like I'm looking away and around and upstairs. It's just like, look here.
We do have somebody that would be willing to do a conflict working with you. It's Susan.
Awesome. Susan, how are you?
If you can unmute yourself, Susan, or maybe Jerry can. There we go.
Tell me what's new and exciting.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, you touched on, the disrespect in the very beginning, which really hit me. And I'll tell you the Coles Notes version is, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm in the middle of starting a joint venture with a company that's a large company. And things have gone exceptionally slow. They have very poor communication, don't respond to things in a timely way. Something that was supposed to have been done months ago, they just dropped the ball on completely. And now that they're at it, somehow I seem to be the problem. And so I've had a lot of feelings of disrespect coming up, like that I wasn't being acknowledged for the effort that I've been putting in, my availability, my willingness to handle things, efficiently, on time. And so it's been a test of my faith. I've been I felt patient, calm, understanding, all those things that my spiritual work has helped me to be in difficult situations. And I feel disrespected. And when you said it, I thought to myself, yes, I'm pretty sure I could come up with a list of some ways I disrespect myself. And still, there's a feeling.
This is the exception. Yes.
I also feel like there's an opportunity, though, for me that maybe is behind it, and this is where I keep looking, is to speak my truth, to be able to say when I'm not okay with something. And that's hard because I like to be always keeping things harmonious. I'm sort of wired that way. I am a nurse, and so I'm very wishing to understand other people's pain and meet them there.
Right.
And I wonder, though, at my own expense, if there's an opportunity here for me to have a voice and say this isn't acceptable. And so I actually did that last week and wrote an email to the owner and sort of voiced. And what came back to me was he didn't try to defend it as much as just he didn't also offer a solution. So
excellent.
I still feel like I'm sitting here going, is anything going to change?
Okay. Are you willing to explore this?
Oh, you bet.
Okay. So I first want you to point out, so when because you made a mention of this, wanting to be more authentic. So when you're not feeling patient, when you're saying, I want to be patient, I'm going to be calm, I'm going to be understanding, but really you're like going, what the?
Right.
And you're like, why is this happening? To own it. To just go there, as much as I would like to be patient and calm and understanding, the truth is, this is pissing me off. The truth is, I am not okay with this. But then what happened was you did what most people do. You decided, I'm going to say I'm not okay with this. And then I wait for you to change your behavior. And I wait, right? And it's like, that didn't work. Because he's like, yeah, I get it. You're not okay with it. You're like, and? So in order to bridge that gap, so we'll get to the other part in a second, but to bridge that gap of, okay, I'm going to speak my authentic truth, but I also don't want to rage, right? To say, like in a business setting like that, a phrase like, I appreciate all that you're doing, and this piece over here is not working for me. So instead of, what you guys are doing or what you're not doing, the fact that this is behind schedule isn't working for me. The fact that, I'm not getting a communication, every week, every day, whenever it is, the fact that we're not in integrity with what we agreed to do together, whatever it is. But I always start with, I appreciate everything you're doing, and especially like in really close relationships, people want to feel safe and loved. So you then say, I love you, and I need you to go to bed now. I love you, and y'all got to leave. I'm tired. I love you, and I'm not going to be able to do this thing that you're asking me to do. It softens the blow of a no. If you just simply say, I love and appreciate you, and that's not going to be something that's going to happen here. If that's something you want to do over here, awesome. But that's not in our mission. That's not something that resonates, whatever you want to say. Okay, that happened so far?
Yes, I feel like I've done that. I've given them a lot of appreciation, and I want this to be different. I want you to respond in a timely way. I want to have scheduled meetings, and no replies to emails and no meetings. So
then you get to rethink, is this truly, a person I want to be involved with, or a company I want to be involved with?
Yes, and I've had that thought, and I do. So I always keep coming back to myself. What is it in me that needs this? Has this showing up? Because I don't want to make it about them. I said, I guess, enough of what I had to say, and I'm still left with the feeling of, wow, after saying all that, still I don't get emails back. Still, I don't get So I keep looking to myself and saying the only solution that exists is within me to find a peace in this situation. I don't see me changing the joint venture arrangement.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so then you get to look. Then you get to look at, okay, so am I communicating clearly? So instead of saying, hey, I want a weekly meeting, I'm setting up a weekly phone call at 2:00 on Tuesdays. Does that work for everybody else? You set the parameters. I want to move this piece forward, and this is our deadline for this piece. What steps do we need to take to meet that deadline? You know, so it's you taking, and so many people go, well, I don't want to always be the one, you know, who has to organize everything. And, you know, I worked with an Olympic sailing team, and one of the sailors was like, why do I always have to be the positive, happy one, you know, who helps people figure out that? I said, because you're good at it. You know, you've got 3 women on a 20-foot boat, you know, sharing small spaces for 36 months as you vie for the Olympics. Somebody has to hold it all together, and it's going to be you, because you asked. How do we hold this together? That's your job. So how do I move this forward? That's my job. And then it really is like, look at all the places. So the phrases you said that they were doing that were very emphatic and passionate for you were dropping the ball, poor communication, not timely. So where do I drop the ball on things that I've said are important to me? Mm-hmm. Where do I not fully and clearly communicate what it is I want? Not what I want you to do, but I'm going to go to hear this speaker on Sunday. Would you like to come with me? Yes or no, either one is a valid answer. But this is what I'm going to do for me. I'm choosing to be in this venture. I've got to decide, am I going to choose to be in this venture despite how they communicate? You know, or am I just going to clearly say, okay, here's the piece of information I need from you today to move this venture forward. And you be very specific about when you would like to have it, what specifically it is you need, and like tiny bites. You get that piece back, and then you say, okay, so now the piece I need from you is this. If it's something someone can take care of in 5 minutes, they're going to quickly respond to you, as opposed to the emails I used to write, which were, you know, 3 pages scrolling long with 60,000 different questions, actions, you know, just one simple task. One simple task. It's how we learn anything, right? It's how we learn to count and stuff. And then if you say, okay, so where are the areas where I'm not timely? Where I tell myself, I'm going to do this for myself by this time. I'm going to make progress here. I'm going to create this. And then I distract myself. You know, squirrel, you know, shiny thing. I was talking with a client the other day who was having a relationship issue, and she was talking about how it's a distraction. You know, drama is a distraction, and we like to create conflict. So imagine your joint venture if it doesn't have any of these things happening. What's wrong with it then? You know, where do we expect there to be conflicts in a venture of any kind? Because it's reminding me of some other venture when this happened and these people did this. And so we're bringing this past into the present, and we're saying, oh, so I want there to be conflict, because if there's conflict, then wow, this will happen and this will succeed if there's no conflict. And then I have to lose some story. You know, we've got 6 core beliefs that all our stories, you know, you can attach a label instead of it's a drama, it's a comedy, whatever, where the theme is abandonment. The theme is unworthiness. The theme is powerlessness, or lack and limitation, or guilt, or death, you know, dying off. Something's killing you. This joint venture is killing me. You know, I don't feel respected. That's an abandonment. You know, where do I disrespect myself? Make the whole laundry list, as weird as it sounds, and start working on, pick the littlest one if you want to, but like pick one a day that you're going to work on. It's like a little 1-a-day vitamin. And when you're done, you're suddenly going to be like, oh, what happened to all that drama that was happening in this joint venture? It's all gone. You know, that's literally what happens. But our ego goes, well, I'm not really that bad. I don't really, you know, most of the time. No, I don't care about most of the time how you are to yourself. I care about the times where you treat yourself like poo-poop. You know, where you disrespect yourself, where you abandon yourself, where you tell yourself you're not good. You know, who am I to do this? You know, those are the places we want to look at and go, oh, okay, let me heal that little sucker. So can you picture a place where you do this to yourself that you can transform, whether it's the communication or the timeliness or the dropping of the ball, where you do it to you?
Oh, well, a zillion, probably.
So pick a tiny one. You know, go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking as you speak, all sorts of things are coming up, and so there's a feeling as also that I guess that I'm not important enough. They don't care about me. You don't like me enough. All that kind of stuff to make me a priority.
So
And
I don't like myself. I don't care enough. Yeah, it's awesome.
What I'm thinking is that, oh, so where am I not making myself a priority? Probably taking care of myself. All these things that I've let go of as an entrepreneur, right? Because that's what happens in early years of business, like self-care, kind of good luck with it. So probably this is the piece that is where only place I have power, I believe. They're a pretty big organization and they'll get to me when they get to me, and they do have a lot of things. I know that there is truly a lot of work on their plate. And for me, a brief email to even say that you're just busy with other things would go a long way. An apology for some behavior that is not very nice would go a long way, and it's not going to happen. So,
and it won't happen because we have that belief that I need to have this, right? Anytime we need someone to do something to make us feel better, it's like, that's not their job. So they're not going to do it so that I can stay stuck in this place.
Yes.
And do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, thank you very much, because you're helping to open my mind to, it's not really disrespect.
Mm-mm.
That one word, it's all these other little pieces. So
yeah. And a really cool thing, you're welcome, Susan. A really cool thing to do is, okay, so they haven't got back to me. What's mine to do right now? Maybe you're supposed to be working on the next project, doing research, taking care of yourself, whatever it is. I had wonderful clients who had bought a building. They owned a sound recording studio in North Carolina, and they had bought a building in downtown Goldsboro, and they were refurbishing it. And, they were revitalizing the downtown area. So they were a part of that. And, they weren't getting clients, and they weren't getting clients, and they're like, oh my gosh, we have no one's coming. And I said, well, what else do you have to do? Well, we have to refurnish the bathroom, and we need to put up some more sound stuff over here, and we need to do that. I said, okay, so just do those things, one by one, just do them. So they did. And I kid you not, 2 days after they got everything finished, this scrawny little guy walks into their studio, and he says, hey, I'm doing this TV thing, and I need to record some demo tapes, and then every week I'm going to need to record something. And so Clay Aiken recorded at the studio. And then some little blonde, I forget her name, Taylor Swift or something, recorded at their studio. So it's recognizing, and I don't think it was Taylor. I think it was the other little blonde. I forget her name. That was back in that era of country music.
Can't help.
Yeah, I can't help it. So, but it was, all of a sudden they had all this steady work, because they did the piece that was theirs to do. And like my mastermind this morning, we finished the big thing I was working on. And I said to them, I don't know what my tasks are this week, what I'm moving forward. So my accountability is that I get clarity on that. Because it's like, okay, so the big stuff was done. It's like, okay, what's next on the list? And I won't tip the hat completely, but there's a book by Martha Stewart that I'll be working on this week.
Yeah. And you got your answer. And that's
I did it again. I always call her Martha Stewart. It's a book by Martha Creek.
It's almost the same thing.
As long as the sign says Martha Creek slept here, not Martha Stewart slept here, I'm good.
Thank you,
just want to step in. Yes,
welcome,
and
Susan.
Thank you as well, Susan, for coming forward. And so we could all see how that turning back, or what is it in me? What is it in me? Things to do. So that's beautiful. And I want, yes, this Martha Creek that you talked about also said in her, after Robert's Rules of Order, my love to coop. I want to be sure that
I saw that.
and then as we're seeing these things, I want to mention the books. I'm just so intrigued, if it's okay, that
sure.
you set one of your goals or intentions or adventures in life is to read 50 books this year. And so you're not only doing one a week, but a couple a day, you said, and wanting to be sure they're the ones you want. So I'm just amazed.
It's a lot of fun. Well, years ago, I had a syndicated book review column back in my 20s. And I missed that. I missed reading books that made a difference in my life. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to read 50 books and write about them. So I read a bunch January, February, and actually did those columns already. And then I'd gone to Kenya and I came back and things got busy. So I've kept reading, but I haven't put out any new columns. So I'll have my March, April, May, and June books done. But I'm finding the commonalities in things like some memoirs that I'm reading. I read Steve Jobs' daughter's memoir. I read Tiffany Haddish's memoir, which I haven't written about yet. Also books by like Jeanette Wells, who's more known for her memoirs, a wonderful little novel that she did. And I've read some interesting things, like whenever there's a conflict, when people are like, well, I don't know about that stuff. So I read Paul Selig's work, one of his books, The Word, I think was the one that I did, where it was like, okay, you know, what is it about this that tweaks people who are in a more traditional spiritual path? And what I got out of it. But then I also there was a incident that happened where the writer Alice Walker, a huge favorite of mine, had mentioned there's a column in New York Times called By Your Bedside or something. And the question is, what books are on your bedside? Now it's very easy to like go, oh yeah, I'm not going to talk about that one. And say, no, that's not on my bedside. But she mentioned a book by this writer, and I still have no idea how to pronounce his last name, David Icke, I-C-K-E. But it was a book that some people say that he's, anti-Semitic. And they quote like little pieces from the book. So I was like, okay, well, my whole thing is I'm not going to label anybody or call anybody anything if I don't personally know. Someone once said, I hate Oprah Winfrey. I said, oh, I didn't know you knew her. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I'm not going to talk trash about someone if I'm not personally acquainted with them. And so I didn't know this guy from Adam. So I decided to read the book. It was like 800 pages, and I got it free as an ebook from archives.org, because he put all of his stuff up there because he was like, people keep calling me these things and that's not what I'm writing about. And so I read it and I was like, okay, he's talking New Thought principles and stuff, but he's also saying, you have to be aware of everything around you, not make assumptions, not jump to conclusions, and determine that, if everybody remembers the truth of who they are, then we're all going to work together and not say, some people have talked about there's a lot of African-American folks that are now in the conservative movement, and they get blamed, you're a traitor to the race, all these weird things. And they're like, look, we don't have to all be in lockstep. We have different intake on things. And I've seen posts on spiritual boards where people are like, I think there are Republicans at my church. And I had a conversation once with the executive director of CSL a few years ago. And I said, people seem to be very, polarizing at churches right now. And he says, yeah, they all seem to have forgotten that most of the New Thought organizations were actually funded with Republican money. And then he paused and then he goes, and that they still are. And I'm not going to say, well, you can't sit and worship next to me because you believe this, that, or the other. I want to hear what you have to say, and I'm willing to look at what I believe and look at, is there a piece of that is true for me? Instead of making anybody wrong, because otherwise we're never going to be in any kind of unity or harmony or consensus if I want to be right and I want you to be wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it feels like it's the basis of a lot of your mediation work, and it feels like it's actually the basis of the ministry, which must be all the time.
Yes.
You were going to write some of those pieces on the books on your travel to Kenya, and I just want to bring that up. I'm seeing a Facebook page that says Radiate here, and you want to mention Pastor George and what you've been doing there as well before we...
Oh, sure. I'd love to. And in late January, early February of 2020, the first ever New Thought conference is happening in Kenya. It's going to be hosted by the CSL Nairobi, which oddly enough is the only official New Thought organization that's actually based in Kenya. Is Reverend Connie Phelps, who is a CSL minister from Canada, went 10 years ago to Kenya and bought a house there and has been, they're graduating the first 5 practitioners. So a lot of folks are coming from all over the world. Ken Gordon will be there from CSL. I'm going to be there and speaking. But I'm bringing Pastor George, who is he was an Episcopalian minister, an Anglican minister, who was giving communion to anyone who wanted it 15 years ago. And he got defrocked as a result because he wouldn't stop. So then he became an evangelical Pentecostal minister. And he read my book about tithing, Giving Thanks, the Art of Tithing. And he wrote me one day and he said, will you come and teach tithing the way you teach it, which is based on New Thought principles, to Kenya? And I said, absolutely. So 13 years ago, I went on my first trip this coming August, next month, a week from 2 days ago, a month from 2 days ago, rather. I'm leaving again for 3 weeks because we got a donor who donated enough money for us to buy a small house on acreage for him and his family, because he is the only minister in all of Kenya. Connie, they can't have a church, so it's an NGO. They don't allow any new religious organizations in Kenya right now. But she's not preaching at Sunday or anything. She's just teaching classes. Well, George goes out to these small communities, to the big towns all over Kenya, and he preaches New Thought, more like UFBL does, where, you know, we believe that the Bible is metaphorical, but the Bible is our textbook. And he's amazing. And he came and spoke in the U.S. about 5 or 6 years ago, I want to say. He was in the Virginia Beach area, but he was brought over by a more traditional organization. So he was speaking at some of the more smaller traditional Pentecostal churches. But he came and attended a leadership training I was doing, a transformational workshop in Roanoke. So I went and got him and brought him for 3 days. But he is the only full-time New Thought preacher in Kenya. So we support his family. We've helped them get farm projects going, helped them dig wells, helped keep the kids in school. His wife, Naomi, is a nurse, and she was on bed rest with the twins that she had, Paula and Paulette, who are now 7. So her license had expired. We helped her get it renewed. We're working on getting her a nursing license here in the States, because if she comes and works for 1 to 2 years, she'll make the equivalent of 7 to 10 years of her salary in that period of time. So it's pretty awesome. But we're excited.
Life, or changing the world one life at a time.
Yeah, and two of his kids are in law school. So
that's just
the future
amazing.
Of Kenya.
I have a friend, Bhante Wimala, who has a Buddhist temple there, and so we'll connect later.
Beautiful, thank you.
I'm just very happy for the work that you're doing, and I know Jerry wants to invite us all to the conference again. Paula, we have here's Martha. I bet Martha wants to say hello.
I want to say thank you. And my takeaways, specifically, just remembering that God actually may exist, and I can consult from time to time instead of trying to have all of the answers all of the time. So many takeaways, honey, and thank you for this.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. Good to see your face.
I'm so happy that I don't care. I don't even know who Martha Stewart is.
Young lady, she was in prison with Snoop Dogg or something. I don't know.
I remember some people used to wear T-shirts around that said, "What would Martha do?" And I'm pretty sure that may be who they were talking about.
No, they were talking about you.
Talking about you.
That was their belief, at least. So I want to thank you, Carol. Awesome job. Jerry, for the organization, whatever it takes here. Susan, Hagar, lovely for you to come on this call. And Carrie, Leslie, everybody that's joined, and whoever will listen to this. So we dedicate this to conscious evolution, whatever can be applied, if whatever everybody's willing to be willing to apply this for matters of their own liberation. So it's an honor and a privilege to be any part of it. And yes, come to conference, and there's many, many things there that will be your doing and your undoing, and
Both things will be perfect.
Yep.
those. And there's all the information's in our communique at our website, newthought.org, and all of the Facebook and social media posts. And I stand often with this wholehearted desire to extend and leave it as an offering, and the impulse to shake, like, wake up, come. And then I realize it's me that I'm shaking. So as far as I know, I'll be there.
Join with that. Be the share. Your
The love card. Yay.
The love card. The love
Oh,
card.
this was awesome.
Paula.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Jerry, we'll turn off the recording, but if you leave the on a little bit, and we can say goodbye to Paula.